Now, she'll get you the. She'll get you the keyboard for it, and you'll be looking at that screen. What? Oh no, yeah, this is case folks. They're working on that. No, I'm good. I'm not. Right.
I haven't.
Roger. What? Yeah, I just want to, in case, because it's probably a topic that's going to come up. We haven't just been talking about it. Stay on. If we want to let these what's the financials that I'm here. I'm going to sit in the corner of there.
If you're doing that too,
Yes. Oh, where's Brian?
She's in the other room. You want me to get her? I'll get her.
We have to do
I'm starting my house.
Is it zooming over there?
Yes.
Okay. So he can do whatever he wants on here. It'll show up on Zoom.
Right now it's on that. If it clicks to the edge here. You see that red bar? Yep. And hit that multi-screen. Yeah. There you go. So you'll be able to share, once you open one of those up, you'll be able to share.
Just click on that one.
Yeah.
Click on that one.
Yeah. I already lost my sleep over the first round.
Okay. So whatever's on the
They
screen,
could have held the
broadcast
next
over
day
there.
and I'd have been just as fine.
Okay.
But I still agree with election by majority. I'm a firm believer that at least 50% of the folks who show up should take this to the
I don't think that's the loss. I think it's.
in Georgia, it's the charter, it is the law. We are like,
Hey, Chris, can you come up here for a second?
yeah, 50% turnout, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Right.
You can have election by plurality like Rankin, but then you get folks who are picked by 22% of the voters, and that's not, I don't see how.
Open stuff up. It's not showing this screen, it's showing like the key.
You got to share screen. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Maybe how long you had these computers?
There we go.
Now it's. Yeah. And then hit share. Hit share.
You guys are.
You're done. Okay. Yeah. Control.
Okay.
Like that's your computer.
Okay.
Don't go far. One of you stay.
So we're staying.
Okay.
Is there a microphone to give you this?
Yes. Didn't see it.
Why don't we do a test check and they hear everybody in the other room? Like everybody's attention just for a second. I want to do a kind of sound check, make sure our community that's in the other room can hear us. Can somebody check and see, can they hear me right now in just a normal voice? I'm not one of those that has a projecting voice, and I understand that. So if you can't hear me when I speak tonight, just raise your hand, or anybody tonight. Just don't be shy about saying, please repeat that. I didn't pick it up.
She's going to check.
Okay, very good.
If you're checking, someone might want to continue talking, so.
Can you hear us over there?
Can you hear me now?
You have to come in here and tell us you heard it.
Can you hear me? Yes.
We're good, we're good.
Good, all right. All right, I want to thank everybody who's out here tonight, particularly our board of commissioners and their heart and desire to look after this community and look after the funding and do a good job with resources that our constituents give us. Thank you for our library board tonight. If you're here from our library board, can I just see who you are so I know who's from the library board? Okay, very good. Thank you so much for being here tonight. We want to share with you some of the things that we have on our hearts and concerns. Tonight, we're not looking to really expel some things that were out there. First of all, we're not fixing to close the library. We're not fixing to defund a quality library. We will always have a quality library in Youngstown County. That's never been the issue. I see some of our city officials here because it's a service delivery issue as well as we all want to provide. We're even looking for opening another library in Youngstown County. So it's not about that. There's a real concern from this board that we believe there's some information and some things that can be damaging to our children. And I think this community in Effingham County is really big on protecting our children. I would hope that would be the heart of all of us. So we're not talking about getting rid of free speech or just banning books, but we do want to be concerned about what is provided for our children, what could impact them in a negative way for a long time. And I think that's a good discussion to have. So when we first became aware of some information that came up, we had assigned it, or I had signed it to a workshop a couple of weeks ago, talking with some of the board members and our county manager, Tim Callanan. If you haven't met him yet, he's to my right. And I'll introduce the board in just a second. We decided that would not be a good avenue, wouldn't be enough time. So it was too late to pull it back. I think some of the lobby boards showed up and we decided, let's have a full 1 to 2 hours where we could fully express our concerns. And then we wanted to get in a roundtable discussion so the board could share with us if they share certain concerns that we have or they don't share certain concerns. Maybe there's some things in place already that protects our children that we're not aware of. So this is more of a fact-finding mission here, because I think the heart of it, everything we want to do at the end of the day is make sure that our children in this community are protected so that they're not damaged emotionally, mentally, physically in any way, to the best of our ability as a board of commission, as a lobby board, and as a community. Let me let you meet the board of commissioners because we don't often get this much attendance. So this is great. And so we want to, tonight we won't have an opportunity from the public to speak probably, but we want to invite you so you can hear. It's always public meeting because we want to hear from the board after we share. If there is some time, we may take some comments from the, but obviously if everybody did that, we wouldn't be able to hear from our board or you wouldn't be able to hear our concerns. So we may need to come back and have a different hearing where we can address public comments as well. You may need some time on the board to address things that we bring up and say, well, I haven't thought about that. I haven't seen that yet. Let me research that and get back to you. So we recognize that under the current agreement, the funding for the library continues. So it's not like tomorrow night there's going to be a meeting to defund the library. We will continue to fund a quality library, and the Live Oak library system will continue to be funded until we have resolved the concerns, feel our children are protected, or there is another alternative, which that's not what we're looking for. We're looking just to see how we can partner together to protect the children. Our board of commissioners got Roger Burdett as District 2. He's on the right. From District 1, we have Forrest Floyd. From District 5, we have Bill Kiefer and Jamie Deloach from District 4. Three, I'm sorry, that's right. He's my district. I don't know why I remember that. But I'm elected at large, so I'm voted on by everybody. So everybody's my district. But I appreciate you being here tonight. So hopefully we can have some good information, express our concerns. And I think the things that Roger's going to share, and I've asked Roger to, he's done a lot of research for us as a board. We each have our areas of passion, areas of expertise and giftedness that God has given us that we use to help provide good information for good decisions. And Roger's done a lot of research. He's been sharing with us by phone. And so we'll see the presentation tonight. And then the board can respond if they share similar concerns. But then we'd like to hear from the board if you do that for us and tell us where we are maybe off base, where we don't understand what really is happening and the protections we have in place. Not sure where the conversation will go from that point, but we're not going to try to direct it. We just want to be on a fact-finding, truth-finding mission tonight. Does that sound fair to everybody? All right, with that, I'm going to open this up and pray. I always want to seek the Lord's wisdom as we discern our community. And then I'm gonna ask Roger if he'd make a brief presentation of his findings, and then the board member shares some more, then we'll listen to the library board says. Okay. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for these, our constituents, our friends in this community who have entrusted us with literally millions of dollars of funding to provide infrastructure, to provide libraries, to provide police protection, medical care, emergency services, so many things that you have put into our place to oversee. And we want to be diligent in expending these resources in a way that blesses our community, enhances our community, and promotes our community in a way that also pleases our Creator. And so we hope that the decisions we make are good in these aspects. We ask for your wisdom tonight, your participation as we listen, as we discern, as we do not judge too prematurely, but we listen, Lord. And we listen to what you are telling us and what wisdom tells us, and that we together as a community can make decisions, because our children, to everyone in this room, is so important. So there's some tonight who are not used to speaking in front of people, perhaps on the board, either board or in cities, and give them the ease tonight. Father, know they're among family in Effingham County, and we are here for one purpose: to share wisdom, to discern facts, and to make decisions that are good for our community. So bless us in that endeavor. And I pray for Roger as he shares his research, that we'll be able to hear it, understand it, and receive it. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Did you want to tell us what as well?
No, this way, better use of time, just don't worry.
And do we have any bottled water out there?
I can,
That'd be great. I just came off a 6.5 hour trip and my mouth is dry as Mr. Burnett.
So I'm probably one of those people that don't speak well in front of people. So I've really been doing a tremendous amount of research in this, because this is our children. We want to get this right. All of us, especially. So I've written everything out that I could, condensed it down as much as humanly possible. And there's just so much out there to get into. It's overwhelming. And it should be. We should have that kind of research on it for our children. We should care that much to go to whatever depths we need to go to make sure they're okay. So I'll read. Let me get through everything. I've got some attributes I'll show you here, and hopefully it makes sense. If I'm not loud enough or something, please ask me to speak up. But a lot of work into this, so I hope it's glorifying the man upstairs, and hopefully we're here to soften hearts and just allow everybody to listen and take this in. First and foremost, what is my stance and position here today? I'm here today as a commissioner, but I'm also a father, a grandfather, a taxpayer, and a person that cares about our children and their futures. I'm also very sorry if I created panic about our library system. It was never my intention. I am dedicated to having a library system right here in Effingham County. If I have anything to do with it at all, we'll have one of the best libraries in the state. Hopefully, by bringing awareness to some issues, we'll be able to accomplish that. But let me be clear, I have no desire to halt our library services even for a minute, not a minute. It's too important for our community. We have to take good care of our library system and take good care of the people that operate it and are board. I heard some of the board members had gotten some slander and some other things. It's not about the board members. So please, if anybody's in that area, just be nice to people. Let's come together and talk about things. It's not about our board. We want to figure out what's happened and how it's happened, but by placing blame, that's not going to help anybody here, especially our kids. Secondly, I received many emails, both support and criticism, concerning this issue. I can't answer them all. I can't provide a huge list of books of what everybody wants. It's too vast and time consuming. What I am working on is a definition of those books and services, and it's pretty simple, actually. Anything, goods or services that could potentially damage a child or teenager in the way of identity confusion or otherwise should be challenged and not funded by our taxpayers. I've lost count of the hours and even days of research I've done and will continue to do so. And I do appreciate the voicing of opinions, and I read them all and I take them all into consideration whether I agree with them or not. However, it's impossible to solve this issue by email or Facebook. In fact, it creates turmoil, hate, misunderstanding, and confusion. Third, we must be kind to each other. It's not an us and them thing. It's a people thing. It's about the future of our great county, state, and nation, our children. I've heard my personal religious views challenged several times since first discovering the issues being discussed today. I can understand why some people frown on Christianity. Many times we aren't doing what we're called to do. Love God and love people. Love people means love everyone, no matter what. Sometimes we have a hard time doing that. One thing we can learn from the LGBTQ community is to be more accepting and be more loving. Again, let me make this very clear. This is not about speaking out against the LGBTQ community in any way. We have to love them, respect them, give them grace, just like God offered. Just because somebody is different, that does not mean we should treat them differently. Everyone, including this community, deserves and should receive love, respect, understanding, and grace as Jesus offers. But that doesn't mean we lie either. Lying is not loving. Truth is lying, love and compassion. But compassion without critical thinking will not bring us together in a genuine nature. We've been given the honor of being good stewards with our youth and have an impact on what they're exposed to. Our responsibility is to stand up for what is right, even if you're the only one standing. We also have to recognize the erosion principle. Moral and spiritual failure usually accumulates over time. It's easy to become immune to the evils around us. That is usually subtle and in small increments and decisions. Before long, we find ourselves on a riptide halfway out to sea. Today, I'm going to borrow quotes, data, stories from various sources that I found. I won't share all the sources that I read today, as there simply isn't enough time. However, it's pretty easy just to find by an internet search on the quote or statement. We'll start out with the ALA, the American Library Association. And I'm just going to read some headlines and a few facts concerning them. The move by the DeSantis administration puts Florida in line with the cadre of Republican states and lawmakers leveling scrutiny on the ALA, labeling the group as toxic and conduit for exposing children to pornography, claims refuted by the organization and its supporters. Oh, and, I need to.
Yeah. It's
It's on the other side. Sorry, my laptop did not work after I prepared it.
When do you get to those products?
There's on the other. One thing that happened on a laptop is another thing to have it where everybody in the county can see it. Okay, that's not one.
Oh, that's not what, that's not.
Yeah, so you're there.
Yeah. But I don't think I can find it from there. I'm not calling you.
Oh, you're getting the right one.
Okay, here we go. Will that share to everyone like that? How do I make that large?
Hit the maximize. But-
Yes.
There you go.
I can scroll up.
Yeah, you yeah, there you go, yes.
Conservatives in a growing number of states, including Alabama, Wyoming, Missouri, Texas, and now Florida, have severed affiliations with the ALA. In part over the group choosing a new president, Emily Drabinski, who in 2022 tweeted that she's a Marxist. Conservatives also raised concerns about a library bill of rights from the association that opposes efforts to restrict access to books based on age. Libraries pay for ALA memberships that grant access to benefits such as discounts on professional development and educational products. I'm sorry, I'm going to be so slow.
Is it on the same file or?
Yeah. I had to go back into. Let's see, very cumbersome.
there.
That's the one.
Next one.
That's it, okay. Stonewall Book Awards, here's another thing that ALA is connected to, it's the book awards, and they celebrate books like When Aiden Became a Brother, which is a book accessible through our library system and presented here today, which I have these books, we'll get to it in a little bit. Drag stream.
Closed it. He closed it. There. That one.
Drag screen, the top one. Drag click through. Yep. Many libraries across the country have been hosting or participating in drag queen story hours. A few have experienced pushback from some members of the community to support libraries facing challenges. This is from the LA. We've established this collection of resources. We will continue to add to it and welcome your contributions. ALA, through its actions and those of its members, is instrumental in creating a more equitable, diverse, and inclusive society. This includes a commitment to combating marginalization and underrepresentation within the community served by libraries through increased understanding of the effects of historical exclusion. The LA also frowns on internet filters and discourages the use of them in libraries. But as I understand it, we have filters in our library, which is great. It doesn't take very long to discover the ALA's agenda. I won't go too deep into this area as it is vast to say the least. I'm not sure the library's connection to the ALA. However, we do subscribe to the First Amendment freedoms policy, which includes their Bill of Rights that do not limit reading in regard to age. They have links to ALA's Library Bill of Rights, Freedom to Read Statement, and Freedom of Use Statement, adopting them as our own. The library itself, here are some of my concerns with material available on our local shelves and internet pathways that we provide children and teenagers throughout the three-county area. Good.
Why don't you take that with you? Yeah, I think it's sort of.
When this will be so cumbersome, I apologize. Go back to the original. Pull up Rainbow Reads.
You still talking about the ALA now?
No, so this is off ALA and up to the library itself. There are actually 3 different pathways in the library website to get material that I found that could confuse a child's or teen's identity at the most tender stages of their lives. It was very simple and quick to navigate the website and arrive at the LGBTQ area for children, also labeled the woke challenge in some areas. As you can see here, some of these books which are available in the library, I have some of them today. But first, let's go through. Could you go backwards, please? Pull up a different file. Pull up EFF books, Effingham books. Pull up on the first one. This is Day in the Life of Marlon Bondo. The reading age here is 2 to 7 years. It is located in the Rankin Library. It is listed in the LGBTQ area.
And so what about that story do you find repulsive?
I won't go into that right now. Can we finish and go back?
Sure.
Because I've got
I'll
several.
make a list.
Okay. Can you go and move forward, please? You could get it where it goes to next file. This one's The Adventures of Honey and Leon. Leon, reading age 3 to 7 years. It's a Rankin Library. I've done this because a lot of people ask me, are they in our libraries? And the answer is yes.
And these books are related to LGBTQ or related to gender.
It could be both.
Selection.
Could be either one. Or in this case, the parents have two fathers. You go to the next one, please. This one is Be Who You Are. Again, Springfield Library, reading age 3 to 6 years old. We can move on to the next one. Jacob's New Dress, which I have here. This one's in Rankin Library, 3 to 8 years old. One interesting thing I found about this one, and I'll share this with you, is it has an excerpt for parents. It says, I'll read, or it reads, if you're a parent coming to this issue for the first time, getting in touch with a clinic or support group is a great place to start. So we're getting steering for our parents that may be working a lot, confused, or not sure what to do with their child. Pink Boys, like all children, need our support and affirmation. Affirmation being the key to become fully who they are. These are books that we're putting in 3 to 8 year olds. Go to the next one, please. If anybody wants to look at these, you're welcome to. Drawn by Heart, 4 to 8 years old, Rankin Library. Julian is a Mermaid, Rankin Library, 2 to 6 years old. Neither 3 to 6 years old. That's in the Rankin Library. This is all pulled from our library site. Pride, the story of Harvey Milk and the Rainbow Flag, 3 to 9 years old, both Rankin and Springfield Library. That's it. Each of these books have a link in order to help identify which library they reside in, as well as other libraries in the area that use the Pines platform. Pull up reading recommendations, please. The third area that they have everything leading to, and I said they, I'm not sure who. I don't know who's responsible for this. Hopefully we find that out tonight. Whether you agree with what I'm saying or not, we still like to know how it came about. And that's the last part of it, like summer reading program for kids, which is a slide list. If you could go to WC, the woke portion of it, woke challenge, WC1. And lastly, here's a link for more books for adults, teens, and small children. The book I have here today Jaya and Raza, a love story of Sonia Patel. Anybody's welcome to look at this as well. It's grades 6 through 9. And I'll read an excerpt from it that I found. Teenage Raza supports herself and her younger siblings by doing the sex work she was groomed to do by her mother. Meanwhile, Jaya lives in a life of privilege in a wealthy family, but their picture-perfect life is a lie he detests. His father cheats on his mother. They both drink excessively, and they pressure Jaya into being the ideal daughter. Jaya knows he's trans, but isn't sure how to tell him that he's a boy and is never going to marry a wealthy man. One day, Jaya sees Raza picking fruit and is sure he's seen a goddess. A budding romance turns it dark as Jaya's paranoia about Raza's caginess and dishonesty comes to a head, and they learn the truth about each other. So I'll skim through the book briefly. It's just so much material. It's incredible. And it also includes something to do with the gun, specifically a Glock and some violence. And it's listed for ages 6 through 9. Can you go to WC2, please?
Grade 6 through 9.
Yeah, grade 6 through 9. Which is 11, I guess. So this is the one I found on, this page includes the book Queer, the Ultimate LGBTQ Guide for Teens. That's this one, 2nd edition.
It is marked for kids 11 years old to 18 years old, grades 6 through 12. It targets the ages between 11 and 18, as I said. I'm missing some data. It does discuss anal sex, oral sex, gay sex, a lot of other areas. It shows you how to do it, why to do it, how to be safe with it. It's very explicit, and again, it targets 11 years old. WC3, please. This is where the children's area begins. In total, there are 16 adult books, 32 teenage books, and 29 children's books. These books are directed towards these age groups that are already struggling with identity. I found no evidence that this would help a child in any way. And to that point, I would argue if at times a parent may choose to purchase a book like this and find it helpful in the right circumstances through proper guidance. What I did find is that the introduction to these ideas can be damaging in many ways.
Do you have data to support that?
I do. Yes, absolutely.
What do you mean?
Everything is based on data.
Let's let him finish what he's saying and then people can address it, but Roger has. the floor.
I'll remind you, I know people I want to speak, but got to hear from the board tonight too. If you have somebody that you want to speak in your place, that's fine too. But we just cannot have it.
We plan on having a public hearing too, in addition to this. We're just trying to get some facts to it. So, let's talk a minute about human brain and development. I believe to understand even a snippet of the impact that this material can have on a child, we have to look at the brain for just a minute. Elementary school biology tells us all that our brains develop well into our 20s and continue to change throughout our lifetime. The early stages of development from birth through our teenage years are extremely complex, impressionable, and vital. This is directly from the U.S. government website. You will see some cited references. NCBI under the heading National Library of Medicine from the title Brain Development and the Role Experience in the Early Years. Although development continues into early adult years, early childhood represents a period particularly important to the development of a healthy brain. The foundations of sensory and perceptual systems that are critical to language, social behavior, and emotion are formed in early years and strongly influenced by experiences during this time. Experiences in the early years of childhood affect the development of the brain architecture in a way that later experiences do not. Also from National Institute of Mental Health, another U.S. government entity published an article called The Teen Brain, 7 Things to Know. Ongoing changes in the brain, along with physical, emotional, and social changes, can make teens more likely to experience mental health problems. The fact that all these changes happen at one time may explain why many mental illnesses, such as schizophrenia, anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, and eating disorder, emerge during adolescence. This is not to say that nature doesn't have a factor. In fact, there's been a debate over nature versus nurture for a long time. In the research that I found, they both play a huge role in development. We'll reach a story about Stephanie. Stephanie grew up as a stereotypically feminine girl on the autism spectrum. When she was 13 years old, she told her mother, Carol, that she was transgender. Stephanie's declaration seemed to come out of nowhere. No prior history of gender dysphoria, no tomboyish interest or behavior. Carol found out that Stephanie had just heard a presentation about being transgender at school, a school where over 5% of the student population identified as transgender or non-binary. Carol took Stephanie to a gender clinic to seek counsel. The clinician told Carol that I must refer to my daughter with masculine pronouns, call her by her masculine name, and buy her a binder to flatten her breast. He recommended no therapy, and there was no consideration of the social factors that obviously affected her thinking. I was directed to put her on puberty-blocking drugs. I was told that if I did not comply, she would be at a higher risk of suicide. You might ask yourself about the autism spectrum. What does that have to do with anything? Further research found in many different places, actually there's a few different studies in this area. Many transgender people, especially teenagers, have co-occurring mental health concerns, sometimes several, like anxiety, depression, and eating disorders. Trans people also experience borderline personality disorder, schizophrenia, obsessive compulsive disorder, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, and autism spectrum disorder at a higher rate than the general public. For example, according to one study, people with gender dysphoria are 10 times more likely to be on the autism spectrum than non-dysphoric people. Another study shows that 26% of trans teenagers seeking sexual reassignment were diagnosed with autism. So how difficult is it to find a gender clinic? We have a family practice right next door in Savannah that has hormone therapy for transgender clients. I won't mention their names. The only thing they require is a letter from a mental health provider that if you're under 18. And they provide names of local providers if your child hasn't seen a mental health specialist. We have that locally. Take a stall on 1%. So let's talk a little bit about identity. Since we're talking about children, I wanted to share a short story that's a children's story. The Frog and the Scorpion, you guys may have heard of. Is that a book that's in my library? No, so this is a story about identity. Very short. The scorpion wants to cross the river but cannot swim. So it asks a frog to carry it across. The frog hesitates, afraid that the scorpion might sting it. But the scorpion promises not to, pointing out that it would drown if it killed the frog in the middle of the river. The frog considers the argument sensible and agrees to transport the scorpion. Midway across the river, the scorpion stings the frog anyway, dooming them both to drown. The dying frog asks the scorpion why it stung despite knowing the consequence, to which the scorpion replies, because I'm a scorpion, and that's what scorpions do. So what is identity? Psychology Today defines it as identity encompasses the memories, experiences, relationships, and values that creates one's sense of self. The amalgamation creates a steady sense of who one is over time, even as new facets are developed and incorporated into one's identity. Identity encompasses the values people hold, which dictate the choices that they make. Many of you reached out in anger because you're protecting and living up to your identities. It's been all across the spectrum. The Bible believing Christian against homosexuality, a gay person believing in the LGBTQ rights, an agnostic standing up for free rights to free speech. Usually the knee-jerk reaction is anger and injustice without exploring the facts. I'm guilty of that. Identity is incredibly powerful. One author wrote, "The strongest force in the universe is a human being living consistently with their identity." Identity is huge. Traumatic or abusive experiences during childhood can disrupt identity formation and have lasting effects on the psyche. Adolescence is a critical period of identity formation. I'd like to play Chloe Cole. You don't have to search for it. If you would look up Chloe Cole on YouTube. Yes.
You click the line.
Mostly I know 40 minutes in. That I know 40 minutes in.
We're going as fast as I can. Couple more pages.
Oh, I think you will get a lot of response in the search time. But no, we're gonna get a lot of it done tonight because it needs to be said tonight. I want to hear from your fellow commissioners and I want to see what they want to say about this. There's a lot of folks in this room. You said a lot of things, and I will definitely let you finish. I want to hear it.
Chloe Cole. Right, no, that's go down. Chloe Cole testifies in Congress is what I'm looking for. That's it right there. It's 5 minutes.
That concludes.
Yeah. Finish. Not gonna be worse.
My name is Chloe Cole, and I'm a detransitioner. Another way to put that would be, I used to believe that I was born in the wrong body. And the adults in my life whom I trusted affirmed my belief, and this caused me lifelong irreversible harm. I speak to you today as a victim of one of the biggest medical scandals in the history of the United States of America. I speak to you in the hope that you will have the courage to bring the scandal to an end and ensure that other vulnerable teenagers, children, and young adults don't go through what I went through. At the age of 12, I began to experience what my medical team would later diagnose as gender dysphoria. I was well into an early puberty, and I was very uncomfortable with the changes that were happening to my body. I was intimidated by male attention. And when I told my parents that I felt like a boy, in retrospect, all I meant was that I hated puberty, that I wanted this newfound sexual attention to go away, that I looked up to my brothers a little bit more than I did to my sisters. I came out as transgender in a letter I sent on the dining room table. My parents were immediately concerned. They felt like they needed to get outside help from medical professionals, but this proved to be a mistake. It immediately set our entire family down a path of ideologically motivated deceit and coercion. The gender specialist I was taken to see told my parents that I needed to be put on puberty blocking drugs right away. They asked my parents a simple question: would you rather have a dead daughter or a living transgender son? The choice was enough for my parents to let their guard down, and in retrospect, I can't blame them. This was the moment that we all became victims of so-called gender-affirming care. I was fast-tracked onto puberty blockers and then testosterone. The resulting menopausal-like hot flashes made focusing on school impossible. I still get joint pains and weird pops in my back, but they were far worse when I was on the blockers. A month later, when I was 13, I had my first testosterone injection. It's caused permanent changes to my body. My voice will forever be deeper, my jawline sharper, my nose longer, my bone structure permanently masculinized, my Adam's apple more prominent, my fertility unknown. I look in the mirror sometimes and I feel like a monster. I had a double mastectomy at 15. They tested my amputated breast for cancer. And I was cancer-free, of course. I was perfectly healthy. There was nothing wrong with my still developing body or my breasts, other than that, as an insecure teenage girl, I felt awkward about it. After my breasts were taken away from me, the tissue was incinerated. Before I was able to legally drive, I had a huge part of my future womanhood taken from me. I will never be able to breastfeed. I struggle to look at myself in the mirror at times. I still struggle to this day with sexual dysfunction. And I have massive scars across my chest. And the skin grafts that they took of my nipples are weeping fluid today. And they were grafted into a more masculine positioning, they said. After surgery, my grades in school plummeted. Everything that I went through did nothing to address my underlying mental health issues that I had. And my doctors, with their theories on gender, thought that all my problems would go away as soon as I was surgically transformed into something that vaguely resembled a boy. Their theories were wrong. The drugs and surgeries changed my body, but they did not and could not change the basic reality that I am and forever will be a female. When my specialist first told my parents that they could have a dead daughter or a live transgender son, I wasn't suicidal. I was a happy child who struggled because she was different. However, at 16, after my surgery, I did become suicidal. I'm doing better now. But my parents almost got the dead daughter promised to them by my doctors. My doctors had almost created the very nightmare they said they were trying to avoid. So what message do I want to bring to American teenagers and their families? I didn't need to be lied to. I needed compassion. I needed to be loved. I needed to be given therapy to help me work through my issues, not affirm to my delusion that by transforming into a boy, it would solve all my problems. We need to stop telling 12-year-olds that they were born wrong, that they are right to reject their own bodies and feel uncomfortable with their own skin. We need to stop telling children that puberty is an option, that they can choose what kind of puberty they will go through, just as they can choose what clothes to wear or what music to listen to. Puberty is a rite of passage to adulthood, not a disease to be mitigated. Today, I should be at home with my family celebrating my 19th birthday. And instead, I'm making a desperate plea to my elected representatives. Learn the lessons from other medical scandals like the opioid crisis. To recognize that doctors are human too, and sometimes they are wrong. My childhood was ruined along with thousands of detransitioners that I know through our networks. This needs to stop. You alone can stop it. Enough children have already been victimized by this barbaric pseudoscience. Please let me be your final warning. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. All right. I'll let this skip a lot of stuff. I do that, but of interest, I will. It's not applicable here. It's happening. You should never. Never base a decision of this magnitude on one or two unique stories. These stories aren't unique anymore. They're not one or two. In a 10-year period, the main UK gender clinic had over 5,000% increase in gender dysphoria cases or identifying as transgender. They were all children and teenagers. With the massive increase of social media use, children and teenagers can find just about anything they want without a filter. If we do anything at all, we're not going to stop this. At least we won't flood up the taxpayer money. I believe in freedom of speech. It should never be used to bully, mock, or be cruel to any human being. Nor should it be used to steer an 8-year-old into identity crisis that could cause irreversible harm and pain. Experts in mental health like Dr. Jordan Peterson says, let them alone and let them finish development. I'll wrap it up here. According to all available studies done with persistent rates of dysphoria in kids, 61 to 88% of early onset dysphoria cases end up desisting. That is, the dysphoria goes away after puberty. We just need to let them develop. Jesus said, if you cause one of these little ones who trust in me to fall into sin, it would be better for you to have a large millstone tied around your neck than be drowned in the depths of the sea. It's Matthew 18:6. God was serious about not harming children, and I believe it's our responsibility and privilege to do our absolute best for them. Maya Angelou said, do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. I think we know better. So let's do better. Thank you.
Trying to listen to what you're sharing, Roger, and kind of see where, it's like you're expressing, where's the board stand on these things? Certainly the child that is there, concerned that we don't want to provide material that can cause a child mental anguish to harm, in this form of surgery. But, I'm concerned about those materials. I guess some of the things that from your, I'm wondering, what is you said the ALA statements are in our current library. I'd like to know what those statements are. Maybe the library could help us with that, so we can see how that gets us when we hear those statements. That's one thing I picked up there. The reading that's here, I would be still concerned about is what's available to children, particularly without the discretion of the parents. If you're saying this is in the children's section, they can go provide get these books and have them, that'd be concerning to me as well.
There's one part that I didn't get to read. That's our current policy in the library allows you, if you're 9 years old, to roam the library without a parent.
Okay, that's a legitimate thing that we can justify and see what protection we have for the 9-year-old can roam the library. Because I am concerned from my position as a board member that these books are not just where children can take them without the supervision of their parents, particularly and have access to this material that and I'm gonna use this word, yes, where I'm standing on this, that promotes an ideology that may be against biology. Okay. That would be my biggest concern on that goes down the path, particularly without the parents' knowledge of that. So I see that as like something we want to address as a board. I'm not sure that all materials, I'm gonna say it's not related to some of the books you had there, Roger, but I'm not sure that all materials should be in our library. I'm not against banning books. You can go on Amazon and anywhere else and private chain to publish. That's the greatness of our country. You can go get pornography at the convenience store. We shouldn't have pornography, I don't think, in our libraries. We don't have pornography in our libraries. We don't have Playboys and Penthouse. I'm not saying we do. I'm just saying we do draw the line somewhere, to my point. So there's a place where you have to draw a line when it becomes damaging to children or to a community. And you place it under protection, and you also do not spend public funds on certain things. Those are the things that I'm falling down on the sideline. I don't think the board wants to address anything that heard tonight, or just concerns that you have from your own research.
Yeah,
I'll speak. We don't want to give it to the library board.
Yeah.
Sure it does.
So first of all, Lola, correct me if I'm wrong, but Live Oak is not a member of ALA.
That is correct. The library organization is not a member of ALA. However, individuals may be members because the American Library.
Taxpayer dollars is not going for membership.
No.
of ALA.
American Library Association is the certifying organization for professional librarianship. So you are not considered a professional librarian unless your degree is from the ALA certified university.
Okay.
That's also important in the state of Georgia, because in order to be considered a professional librarian in the state of Georgia, you have to prove that you have an ALA certified degree.
I mean, I just want to make that really clear. And I guess I'll somewhat be brief, so, because I know there are a lot of other folks that want to make a comment, but I will say as an elected official, this is wrapping up my 9th year as a county commissioner. And believe me, I've heard just about every complaint that you can ever imagine across all spectrums of services, and facilities that we have here in Effingham County. But I can tell you one thing, I've never had one complaint in 9 years on our library system, on services, on staff, anything. I was raised a certain way. I raised my kids a certain way. I've got my own personal beliefs. Everybody in this room has their personal beliefs. But I also understand we have a public library. I understand there are a lot of kids out there dealing with multiple questions, things that other kids may not. I recently, this past Friday, with some other commissioners, had a visit with Lola, her staff, some board members, library board members at the Springfield location. And very welcoming environment. They had, I think it was an age group from 3 to 7 that was there at 10:30 that morning. Pretty much these young kids, and from what I've been told and what I assume, when they go to the library, they are accompanied by their parents. I've recently learned there are multiple controls in place with library cards. There's an app. The parent can always see what their child's checked out. They know what's going on. And there's other additional controls, which I know y'all can speak more to that, but there's other controls that parents can put on the children's library cards. So it's not just free reign when they go in there. Something else that I feel is, well, I know is very important. As an elected official, we appoint individual members to multiple boards throughout the county. And one of those boards is our local library. And in talking with some of the members, I really feel that we have a very good local board. And I've talked with them about the numbers, how many total articles we have at each location. I think if I remember correctly, like 28,000. And the amount of books that touch on the LGBTQT, and I said that wrong. I did not mean to offend anyone. It's very minimal. And it's to the point that, from my research, that if someone wants to get that material, they are going to the card catalog. They have to be looking specifically for that. It's not when you walk in the library, there's some kind of agenda. The other thing I think about is if we censor one group, no matter if it's what we're talking about tonight, any group, pick one, where does it stop? You know, do we censor another group, you know, later on? And so I'll just stop there and just say, you know, I had personally, you know, this has been an interesting week. And, you know, I had personal beliefs, but I also understand that we provide a public library as a countywide service here in Effingham County. And I'll stop there. Whoever wants to go next.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll be short. We can speak later as we talk. I want to make sure you guys have a chance to talk. I appreciate the passion of Commissioner. I mean, but you know, looking at the material, I keep asking myself, where are the parents when I'm looking at that? Where are the parents? And I think for me, we have to be very careful on asserting ourselves as the parent. That's important. I have 3 kids. I don't need another one of these. But the good, you know, what I did bring out, looking at a lot of this material, is the battleground doesn't have to be our here. You know, if there's a battleground, and I'm not saying there's not a battleground, if you believe that, I just do not see that battleground being in our county libraries. You know, I love our libraries. I actually visited Commissioner Loach, had set up a meeting, and he contacted me and said, "I'm going. If you'd like to come, there, some of the library folks will be there while they're together." And it was the same library I grew up with, a different location, but the same library. You know, it to me, it just goes back to we have to be careful being the parent, you know, trying to be the parent. We see it in education. I know plenty of educators, and I think that's a lot of their challenges. Sometimes they're expected to be the parent, and that's not their job either. But for now, I'll kind of leave it at that. We'll continue to discuss.
This has been tough from here, guys. I'm on the bears to talk about it. I was on the tour also, and we went up there. Of course, whenever I receive some of this information, your mind goes to the worst spot. I pictured what we saw up there, some 6'2" man with a wig and lipstick reading the kids, and that's not the case. It's our staff that reads the children. They're accompanied by their parents. I also thought there would be posters and advocacy pushing, and I didn't witness that. What I found was professional staff that were very confident and pretty much felt the same way we do. You know, they want to protect their kids. I felt very comfortable once I got there and met with them. What I did, I think at 9 years old, at what point can a child, my question, at what point can a child go in there and freely look around and pull books?
So if a 9-year-old is in one of our locations, there has to be another child with him who's 13. So a 9-year-old can't be in the library by themselves. If we had a 9-year-old in the library, we'd be calling the authorities.
Right. And what we saw up here with the numbers, so
Let them talk, please, Roger. We gave you your hour.
With the parents
Ask you about be controlled.
All right.
So be controlled.
Let's get control.
the
Yes.
What starts?
if these books are going to be checked out, the parents going to pull that book for the child. It's not our staff. It's not anybody on this board. I believe in freedom and free speech. What I believe personally has nothing to do with this. There's more information in a kid's hand with one of these right here than anything in that library. And when I left, again, my mind went one way, but when I got there, it was nothing like that. The parents have the control. The parents want to believe that their child is going a certain direction and want to find that information. The parents are what's going to pull it. It's going to be the kids doing it. And I truly don't believe that we should. I don't see how we can pick up books can be on the shelves. We walked all through that library. I found nothing offensive, no advocacy, nothing pushing any of this. I mean, I was looking at books. There was nothing there that made me think, oh my God, what are we seeing? As long as there's controls in place where the parents are the ones that have to pull these books, I don't have a problem personally. So,
And I do want to add, to me, a lot of those books can be damaging, but they're not going to be in my home.
Right.
You
It's
know,
not sure.
I promise you, it's not going to be in my home. That's my belief. Look, I think like I said, it goes back to the parents as a Christian too. I guess I'm not doing my job if I'm not witnessing to the actual parent that is allowing that to happen. It's a tough spot, but nonetheless.
So it might be helpful because we also didn't have a chance to attend that meeting that
You
changed.
should go tour the library.
Could you share with us those controls that you shared? That's my biggest concern. Let's from the beginning. What are the controls that protect our children from
Including the app, because you said you can see everything these kids check out.
The most part.
So share with us, for everybody in the community, what are the controls that we have in place that protects our children that you're confident in?
Well, first I would like to thank Jamie, Phil, and Floyd for coming to the library with me to see what it was really about. I greatly appreciate you guys coming, so I would like to say that first. I'm a parent that uses the library on a weekly basis, so I think if anybody could speak to anything, it's me. I also have a child that is on the autism spectrum, and I'm going to tell you right now, there are lots of protocols in place that parents have a choice. So I repeat that, parents have a choice in the matter, and they have freedom to choose what materials their children access. So there is an app, and that app is fantastic. That app, as a parent, gives me control to add all of our library cards into the app so that at any given time, I can see what my children have checked out. They do not have to have access to that app. My children are teenagers. They're 17 and 15. My 17-year-old just now got access to that because she needs to learn responsibility. But they did not have access to that app until recently. Another method is the library card. If you do not want your children accessing materials in the library, you do not give them a library card. The parent has to consent to the library card. So, those are two very big protocols in place. You as a parent have the choice and the freedom to decide what materials your child has access to.
And what age is that library card? Did they have to, at what age did they have to have parents' authority to get library card?
I didn't give my kids until 9, but
any child can have a library card if their parents sign.
Right, but what age did it have to be?
17.
Like, can the 13-year-old walk in and get library card?
You have to be 18.
18? Okay,
So I'm Director of Public Services. You have to
that's
be
a great
18.
control. Yeah, I said, if it was up to age 10 or 11, I think, no, that's not a good
no,
control.
a parent has to give permission up to the 18.
18,
Get
you got
one,
to get permission.
right, under 18.
If I may read just this real quick statement on any library card application. If this card is for a juvenile, as the parent or guardian of a child under 18 years, I am willing to allow him or her to borrow materials from the public library.
Very good, thank you.
And I would just like to mention that we have over 60,000 items in circulation between both the branches. And the amount of materials are very small. And I would like just to speak from a mom for a moment. My children have been in the library since they could crawl across the floor. In 17 years of accessing the library, my children have never gotten any material off of a shelf that I find questionable. Ever. And we are literally in the library 3 to 4 days a week, and we're there for hours. So I don't know if that makes anybody feel better, but that's me speaking as a mom.
Was it also these books that are in question, aren't they in a, not a secure area, but in a certain area, or are they just spread out throughout the library? Is it free where a kid can go get one, or do they have to ask?
Yes, so if they search for it in the catalog, they'll be able to go and find information on the shelf. If they ask a library staff person, can you help me find this particular book? They can just walk with them to the shelf and pull it off.
But if they're looking for this material, then they're specifically looking for it. So that's what I want to stress. Like, this would have to go into the card catalog, and you would have to put this information in to specifically find it on the shelf. So it's not.
You can't do that still without a, so an 8-year-old
If
would
they,
have we with a parent, correct?
if they knew how to use a card, look, you know, they can go online to Pines and look up that in the Pines system. And Pines is the state's state software and the state circulating. So most of the libraries in Georgia subscribe to that. So, you know, they can access that through searching. But, you know, it's my belief as a parent, I'm speaking as a parent right now, the odds of somebody actually specifically looking for that book, they would have to do that.
Access an app, so if they've got access to a phone, they will already have access to.
So is Ponce an app or a system that other libraries like Statesboro or?
Yes, they're all Statesboro, it's a statewide collaboration for Georgia libraries. And we can request books from any of the participating libraries across the state.
Well, there's like 200 to 300 libraries associated or part of the Pines, or more than that.
No, it's less than 60, but we get access to like 300,000.
Okay.
Well, one of the things that I guess brought this to where we paused to start looking at it was a reading list. I think, Roger, that you brought to us that had shown a book for gender identity selection. You could choose your own gender, regardless what your biology was. It was on a preferred reading list, I believe. Am I correct on what we were told on that?
So it was on a reading recommendation list for diverse reads.
Right.
So back in 2020, the library completed a diversity audit, and it found that we were lacking in LGBTQ material and also other historically underrepresented voices, and those include people experiencing poverty and homelessness, women, Hispanic voices, African Americans. And so the library since 2020 has been adding these materials to the library because people in our community are looking to be reflected in our collection. And so we're working every day to make sure that our collection represents the community.
Well, that's the, you know, how do we know that? I know an audit came in and they looked at, was that, how do we know that's a reflection of our community, that our community is looking for more diversified material? Just curious.
Over 1,500 LGBTQ items were checked out in the last 3 years in Effingham County. So we know that there are people looking for them. And we get more complaints about the lack of diversity in our collection still, even though we're working for it, than we get any other.
That's who manages the website. So we had a director of communications who is no longer with the city. I have been acting in an interim capacity for that. I came to Live Oak 8 months ago. So coincidentally, I'm also fielding all the community complaints as well. And I have actually answered more complaints as to the question of the diversity. Why do we not have any diverse materials? Than the fact that there are diverse materials in the collection. So also anecdotal, but I wanted to share that as well.
Additionally, there was a mention about internet controls and that we have it, but other libraries do not, and that is incorrect. In 2000, Congress enacted the Children's Internet Protection Act, and that covers schools and libraries. So every public library has to be compliant if they offer the internet.
And what
So
is
there's
that?
filters, that's what, yeah, that was the other
The
point.
filters.
It has
for-
filters to restrict it from children.
From everybody.
Yeah,
Right,
everybody.
okay.
Everybody.
It's applied to all
Well,
of our.
that's my
public.
point earlier, that there is a line that can be drawn, that we go down the other side of the mountain that leads to a baser side of humanity that we want to stay away from. We do that all through society with some decisions that we make. And so,
I get it.
Congress drew that line in 2000 by the definition of pornographic material.
Didn't have anything, we had no control. That's a law that we have to be compliant.
is there anything else that the board want to share tonight? The reading list that was on, make sure I'm clear on that. Was that reading list a preferred reading
It's
list
a
that we had?
reading recommendation list for diverse voices, and it includes African Americans, Asian American voices, diverse abilities, female voices, Hispanic American voices, immigration, LGBTQ+, Native Americans, poverty and homelessness,
So
and social justice.
it's a reading list that's not just for this subject, it's a reading list.
It covers all those.
All the
subjects.
Okay, and it's not directed toward children to read this material.
It's in the kids section. Work on kids.
There's a it's a recommended reading list for all ages. For all ages. So here's the thing, if I live in Effingham community, and I have two fathers, when I walk into the library, I should be able to see something that reflects my family. And so that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and once again, I'm on the side of what the whole board is saying here as far as faith and religious beliefs, I understand that. The side that I've had most trouble with was the gender identity when we go into biology and we teach a 12-year-old or a 10-year-old, and we're not doing that sound like I know, but that's my concern, that material that's in our library that could tell instead of helping a 10-year-old, when I was a little boy, I dressed up like my mom, and that's what we do. And guys, women can dress up like guys, and we wonder as our body changes, am I really all what I'm supposed to be? And I'm concerned that if there is material that can take that confusion and say, you might be a boy, even though you have the biology of a girl, you might be a girl, you have the biology of a boy. That's the one thing that I heard earlier that we were talking about earlier, Roger, that's not the other stuff we're talking about, not so much, but that's the one thing that disturbs me when we go against biology. If we have that material, I'm not sure it doesn't need to be kept where it's in the lock and key, so it has to be where a child can not just grab that and read that because they're there with a 13-year-old and they're 9 years old, or they're 12 years with a 13-year-old, and they say, well, maybe I could be a boy, maybe I could be a girl. That's not a position that if it causes you heartache, I hate that, but that's a position I'm strong on, that we cannot fall into the woke idea of that you can select your gender, as we have a swimmer right now who's dominating the swimming world of women. And
I think the
we're
issue,
going crazy in that area. So I'm just worried about that
you're
material.
getting into personal ideologies there, and that's the problem, because when we talk about the First Amendment, we talk about protected classes that we can't discriminate against. So if you take one topic that affects one of these protected classes and put them under lock and key, you're now opening yourself up to lawsuits. And what you talked about in those books that was sexually explicit, I understand that in your household, perhaps those things don't affect your children, but as a child who was sexually abused by my grandfather, it really upsets me that you're equating the fact that my profession is something that is now not protecting children, because I'm actually trying to do the opposite. And some children need to read those stories to feel seen and to know they are not alone. Okay. So not all of us grew up in a lovely home. And those materials may not speak to you, but they do speak to others. And that is why those people are protected.
And this is especially important because we have an influx of new people coming to this county, and they need to feel like they're welcome and they're included. And if we have a library that has a collection that they can see themselves in, and that they feel welcome and included and safe when they come into our spaces, then we're doing our job. If we start down this road, like Commissioner Floyd mentioned, if we start down this road, saying this material is no good, then it doesn't end. And the library also has reconsideration of material, process in our collection development and approval. So if you're really upset about a particular book that your child brings home, then you can talk to a staff person about it and fill out that reconsideration form, and our staff will take a look at it.
Let me ask you another approach. We have the audit and the idea that certain people maybe want the gender identification material out there. I'm still advocating opposed to this gender identification. I understand your situation.
But
I agree.
that's,
Yes,
but
you do.
that's your personal
No, I think
opinion,
it's
not
beyond that. I think that's science, but that's another argument, another day. But so we focus, just make sure I got information, we focus on the fact that we can have books that promote that you could be a boy if you're a girl. Do you do the research, or do we as a library system and whatever to make sure the other side represented, if you feel this, do you know how many books are out there to say, hey, you're okay. You're created the way you're created or whatever. Do we have those books that represent, which probably is 99% of our community that holds that position. Of the 1,500 books that were LGBTQ, I bet there's 10% of that is related on gender identity. I don't know, you have the numbers on that. That's gonna be very few. 99% of this community, it's probably gonna be on the other side. You need to know that there's a way to embrace how you're created so that you are not scarred for life.
There's an entire section of Bible stories for children as well, so they're there. The King James Bible is sitting in my reference department.
But it's not on the website.
Yes, it is. You search for it.
Is it in the kids section?
You've already established.
It's got murder, incest, rape. I mean, yeah.
Just asking.
Well, I don't know. I guess I'm just trying to figure out, like, are you concerned with kids seeing such
Concerned
Bible
with
stories that?
an opposing view.
You know,
You know, if we've got one thing, we don't have anything.
I think I can address this. So we have a collection development policy, and as we talked about before, a degree librarian is established by the ALA through the degree that you earn. So I long ago discovered that I have to have a set of personal values and a set of values that apply to this position, because when we build our collections, one of the things we do absolutely do is build a proposing viewpoints. So I know you said you didn't have time to create a list, but we actually did, because we have the ability to do that. What we do is we have things that are, when she talks about how you have to find a book and you put a topic into the computer, it's because they are coded by subject headings. So we learn this in cataloging. The publisher attaches the coding to the book comes in, we catalog it into our system, and that's how we're actually able to find materials. And when we do our internal audits, we do look for opposing points to make sure that it is fair, because we do recognize that not only are communities made up of all different types, but it is okay that one community is very much this way, a community is this way. So the people who work in the branches here are from this area, and they are members of your community, they represent your community. That's why you got along well with them when you went and you talked with them and you were comfortable with them, because we want our libraries to reflect that community. But what we're talking about here is, you said 1% of the population. Well, the number of books that exist in the collection that had that subject heading are probably close to 1% of the collection. So those are the types of things that we as professionals do look at, and we want to be considered professionals and do our job well.
And here's another very important point that we need to be clear on. As a government entity, the library cannot exclude books or other speech merely because it does not follow a particular political orthodoxy or opinion. So we can't exclude these books because they represent people in the community. And that's what our library is about, serving our community, making sure we have programs and events and a collection that the community can use.
But this goes beyond, this goes to the point of damaging a kid's
It
life.
does not.
It's that issue of religious. So let me say something to you, please. Sorry for what you went through. A lot of the research I did and the people that I've talked to have been through stuff we could never even imagine. And I apologize. And I've talked to many people. I've got friends in the community. I've got relatives in the community. And I've learned a lot just by going through this. And we can't fathom how many people have been abused, and we just don't. We'd have to walk a mile in your shoes to understand, and I'm sorry, that's our culture. My main concern is that when we're going through this website, I wish somebody pull it up here, and you click on kids, there's nothing that says, hey, you're okay like you are. I think us as a society and a culture, we need to affirm it's okay like you are, and it may be somebody different, and that's fine. But there's nobody saying that you're okay to be normal, or you're going But see, I know it's in the libraries.
I'm a mother of a 5-year-old boy. My boy loves Chuck.
You're missing the
That
point.
boy can look at Chuck books all day long and be a boy. And
It's
fine.
not on the, it's not as like a reading list item, that where if I'm searching and I'm a kid and I'm kind of lost, but there's no place to say I'm okay. That's the biggest problem I have. Yes, there's everything else. There's 3 categories that we go through that take you to the LGBTQ community, but there's nothing in there, and it doesn't have to.
I guess what he's saying, and you have to help me with this too. I'm trying to hear both sides and all sides. We have the reading list that identifies so the diversified community can have materials that they want to read related to how they believe and feel according to their ideology. I understand that. In that reading list, is there, and maybe there is, other than just saying that King James Bible, I'll read the King, I read it, we understand it. You know, other than just saying the Bible's there, is there something in the reading list that promotes Judeo-Christian values as well? So you're not excluding either side. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to put a reading list, and maybe it is. Like if you're struggling, is there a list of here's 12 books from?
You should look at the Christmas books. You should go in and see the Judeo-Christian traditions in the Christmas books on display at the library.
Or Easter story.
I just want to be clear again about this list and why it was developed. In 2020, there was a diversity audit that was completed of the collection. And these groups were considered underrepresented in our collection. So that's why this list is here. This list is here so that people who are interested to learn about these different groups can see them. And that people, well, I don't think you do, because you're asking us if we have a list for the materials that were already the majority represented in the collection.
That's not what I'm asking.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying as a board in a community that does hold Judeo-Christian values as a community, we have the freedom to absolutely provide that list that makes everybody represented. But we also have the freedom as a board to make sure that we identify good reading for those who don't go that path as well. And it may be in the library, but are we providing in a way that says, hey, if you're struggling with this identity or you're having this is a boy expression of that may help you with that. That comes from our community values.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just went to the webpage and I clicked on kids, and there are I can't even count how many different categories. LGBTQ is one of them, but there's also Georgia, there's Bible, there's Spring into Reading. There's a whole list of different categories that they can click on to determine. I think, is that the question?
So it might help, because I didn't have I was traveling this week and had an opportunity to go to the board. If Roger would join me, I might just come back with the announcement that we have a forum. I wouldn't mind coming and letting you share what you share with the other commissioners, and let's look at that and how we do promote our Judeo-Christian values in this community without excluding the diverse community as well. And we're probably doing that, but I think the constituents understand we put $1 million into the library. I think you want us to ask questions. And
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Yes.
Where? If you put it in buildings and dollars and everything.
No, funding amount.
Yeah.
Let's talk about funding personally. Okay, I understand about the buildings, but the funding.
Yes, but
It's the bare minimum.
we're providing we provide 2 buildings in
No,
repairs.
Rankin is provided by the city of Rankin.
It's part of service delivery. We share that as a community.
Right, the service is delivered, but the building is owned by Rankin.
this community and the government, whether the city or county, puts about $1 million, and we're looking at expanding this structure. So if you want to say 750, I won't argue with it. 750, that's a lot of money. And we can put more if that's what we need to do for the library we need. And we may have the library we need. I'm not saying any of that. It's not good.
I just want to make a quick statement. I had prepared a really long statement, but I just want to touch on this if I can real quick.
Sure.
And this is as a parent. So at the end of the day, we cannot make parents parent or make decisions that make everybody happy. But we can give parents the freedom to choose what their child is exposed to. We can do that through the library. Censoring library materials does not solve the issue that some of the commissioners have expressed, because those materials already exist on the internet and within our community. I want to stress this too. So if we censor one group's materials, what is going to stop some other group from having a problem with your Christian materials? And this, when does it stop? I understand what is being discussed, and I understand people's concerns. I really do. But at the end of the day, this is a public library. Not everybody is Christian. Not everybody believes negatively against what you guys are opposing. We're going after a library system that has controls in place that give parents the control at the end of the day. We're on a slippery slope to tell parents what they can and can't do. I think if you have a problem with this issue, there are bigger players. I'm sorry, I'm not a politician and I'm not even speaking. So, there are other resources available. If you have a problem with it, if it's against your religion, and I'm not getting into religion because it's nobody's business at the end of the day what I believe or what my family does or doesn't. But if that is against it and you feel strongly about it, there are programs available that you could be helping and assisting to help children that you feel this is not the way they should be. And I understand. I just want everybody to know, I understand where everybody's coming from. And I don't think that's my issue. My issue as a parent. And as a parent, I should have the freedom to be able to teach my children what I think is right. And we have protocols and we have things in place that give parents a choice in this community. And I think the larger issue is if you do not agree with this, then there are other organizations and avenues that could probably have a better impact. And that's my opinion as a mom.
Yeah, and I really agree with a lot that you said, particularly about the fact that there's ways to be involved to help people through these struggles, other than just trying to ban a particular book. So I'm not looking to do that as well. But anyway.
I'd also like to add that our values, the library's values, are aligned with Effingham County, because we saw that in April 2021, the commissioners approved the diversity, equity, and inclusion policy, that's section 2.26. And that states, we embrace and encourage our employees' differences in age, color, disability, ethnicity, family or marital status, gender identity or expression, language, national origin, physical and mental ability, political affiliation, race, religion, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, veteran status, and other characteristics that make our employees unique. So we're all on the same page with these values.
The other thing I want to repeat, there was nothing pushing any agenda that our library.
Yeah,
that's important to me. There was nothing saying, look here, for anything.
So are we okay as long as that never happens? Is that what we're saying today?
Well, my concern, as I shared with you earlier, in this talk with measures, do we have the controls in place? And I want to just want to have this discussion. I still like to come to the library and have the privilege of what you guys shared and see and walk through it with you. And maybe that's the next step, and then see what we can do. So we'll make a contact, and that's okay. Make that happen. All right. That'll be the next step.
I'd like to bring up the regional funding that we do, where that goes to. It's 38% pretty much of what we're providing. What's the regional fund actually do?
Sure. The regional funding goes to pay for all the regional costs of library, which is for the IT services, the collection management services, the financial management services, the administration of the library, maintenance staff. So
So they maintenance staff at where?
The maintenance workers are regional employees. They're allowed to go into either Chatham, Liberty, Effingham, to help deliver materials if necessary. Of the overall cost for all the regional items, Effingham County pays 10.22% of those costs. And that's based on a formula that was agreed upon in 2018, which is a blend of what the county populations were at the time and what their overall operating budgets were at the time. So it's, around numbers, we spend about $500,000 a year on our collection. So Effingham County pays about $50,000, just our estimates, for the materials. And those are further broken out into, these Effingham, Springfield locations, so forth. So that's how the regional funding is developed, because, myself as the director of finance, I work in all 3 different counties. The Effingham County pays a portion of, my salary and low salary and all our salaries.
That's one of the main concerns I had, is if a large percentage of the money we provide is not staying local, making some services from that, and that is a concern.
Right.
Another concern is our representation.
Right.
The Statesboro Library, the way they operate, they have equal number of people on board, so they can have a say as far as their community is concerned, even if they're small. We're only allowed 2, and I think Chatham has 8. Not correct? So that's pretty lopsided as far as being able to maintain the values that we're all saying that we had. We had that, and I've never said that our library system was bad. It's mainly pointing toward the internet portion of it, and it looks. If you can pull the kids system up right now, when you go to kids, there's no Bible in there. I don't know where you see that, Patrick, but not on my list.
It's not in the kids list, but it's on the library.
So there's nothing else there. That's the biggest beat that I had. I'd love to work something out to where it's not so direct.
Can I just see if I can get your all feedback on something?
With the reading level.
Exactly, but there's kids.
That's why it's not on that list. It's not the reading level.
But are the kids books written for that?
Roger, look,
Well, I mean, if some of this has to do regionally on the website itself, right? And it has to really do not just, not with the content that's in the library itself, but what the regional library promotes on the website, right? So that we can make sure that if we go down a road, and I had this conversation with Lola when we talked about the Read Woke, and then of course I was 3 years old, and I told her that it's something I believe today, that the definition of woke 3 years ago was much different than it is today. That it is a much more toxic term and partisan term in 2023 than it was in 2020, right? And that's when that page was created. And so that when you go down that if that page was created today, then at that point, as a promotion, there needs to be some sort of balance to that. Because if we going down the road, one thing that I'm hearing is, let's not restrict, the content of the overall library volumes, but, maybe we can agree to take a better look on what we promote to make sure that it's down the middle. Because I don't think anybody wants to have a headache of trying to defend content that is too heavy on one side of an argument and with nothing on the other. And I don't know whether that's difficult to do, I'm sure. But that's something that I think I would hope when it comes to items that we promote on the website, that may be an area of common ground.
All right, I need to understand. So when we had the meeting before, Mr. Burnett brought up that you're a member of the ALA. He also said that the ALA promotes child pornography. And alluded that we promote child pornography. Look up the definition of child pornography. And the last thing was that we had drag story hours. That's the 3 things that were said at that meeting. And then he wanted to withhold funding at that meeting, correct?
No, I think you.
No, no, sir, correct. Full video.
You're asking how to answer what.
Go ahead and answer them full video.
Okay.
Can I answer that?
You can, but
Those were the three things he said. So we've gone from that to now, your only concern is that we represent the Christian community in the library on the web page. That's not what you're asking, for, but that's what
I'm
I'm, you're
trying to
asking.
find the balance here. But what I heard Mr. Burdette saying that night is that the ALA, we were a member of. He's talking sensitive research, but they're not a member of it, but they do adopt the statements of value, whatever it is, of the ALA.
Those three statements are widely used, they're open source.
No, but I'm just saying the facts. I'm not saying like
I'm just,
on the board right now. When he was ready to vote, I think he was ready, now you answer this, he was ready to vote for a different direction if all this was true. You know, I think some of the board members might have said.
The word defund was used.
Yes, at the end of the day, we've ultimately got.
But it was tabled, that's, I mean, it.
Right, I just want to make sure, I understand. We went from child pornography, look up the definition, so you make sure you understand what child pornography is. Drag story time, and I just want to understand, so now we're just to the point of, let's just represent Christian values on the website.
Well, it's more than that. Discussion's far beyond that. It's defining the protections we have for our children in place tonight. And that's what I was concerned with. That's what this board is concerned with as a whole. We have to find that. Like, I want to still go and look. I wasn't privy to the visit these guys had. I'd like to be a part of that because it's still a lot of resources. And so we need to do that. So there's several things been accomplished tonight.
What are you voting on tomorrow? There's nothing on the agenda.
No, I'll tell you what it is. It's simple, and it's a misunderstanding. So there's the IGA. I'm sorry, the IGA between the three counties and the library has responsibilities. It's in place, has responsibilities of each party. Because of some changes and wanting more flexibility, they wanted they wanted to put some small changes in there. I'll give you an example. One of them had to do with all of the employees in the library, I believe, are under the Chatham County employment system, right? One of them had to do with the pension. Another one had to do with the requirement of the advisory board requires the county manager be in attendance. This would allow them to send somebody there like an assistant manager as a proxy. So that's what's coming up, is just those changes in the agreement, right? If they vote, if that gets voted down, the old agreement stays in place. Right. It's so the funding stays in place. And so it was a little bit of confusion as to what we were voting for. But that's what's on the agenda.
So I just wanted to make sure everyone understood that when Tim mentioned the changes, so the page is now free because of the rebook,
that's been
the product of the rebook, and that was done before our meeting on the 21st.
Yes, and I just want to point out we were receptive. That was done the day that it was brought up. And I would also like to mention, I would just like to mention that I reached out to Roger and I did invite him and his family to attend the library, and he did not accept that.
That's not true. I said I couldn't right away.
No, you did not.
Yes, but I would like to in the future.
You totally glazed right over that part of the conversation.
Yeah.
So, but I just want to mention that, and I also want to mention that we have public meetings that the commissioners are welcome to attend. And I've been on the board since 2021, and we have not had anybody attend. And we also invited you guys to our strategic planning, and you guys did not attend. So I just wanted.
But I can tell you that I've been to probably at least half a dozen library meetings, particularly when I first came on the commission in 2016 and 18. I did 10 because I came a part of that when we spending the budget for us to pay part of administrative costs. I said, I'm gonna come hear about that. So I came and I listened to that and I made my comments, and I think they actually went back and retweaked it over the things that I shared with them that night. I went to a library meeting because I knew they had some issues with their buildings and told them at that meeting, hey, I bet Rinken's got insurance on that hail damage on your roof, and I saved them $40,000. So I have been to library meetings as I see something that I can help with. But I'm probably a dozen boards as the, not that many. I'm on a lot of boards as the chairman. so I can't attend all the meetings.
So I'd like to mention some other protections that the library has. We already discussed the Children's Internet Protection Act, which is also called CIPA. All library public staff and volunteers must clear a background check before working or volunteering in the library. Library programming and events are under the authority of local branch managers with the guidance from our Director of Public Services. Also, in the last year, Live Public Libraries earned designation as a safe place in our Chatham and Liberty counties. And although Effingham County does not have a certifying safe place organization, we partner with Safe Haven as an alternative. And this means that women and children who are physically, emotionally, or sexually abused can be connected to help and protection in our Effingham library.
Let me say, I'm real pleased with your acceptance and willing to hear the concerns of Roger and myself. Appreciate your time tonight. I think the next step, if you don't mind, is I'd love to come be a part of that same.
I would love to show you what I consider my library, because that's my second home in our safe space.
When my kids were young, my wife sitting behind me, spent many hours in the library checking out books, reading to the kids. So we recognize the value of the library. We recognize the need for the library to help people through emotional challenges that they have in their lives. So appreciate this time out. I think that's the next step. This was a fact finding. We wanted to meet with the board. That's why we expanded it. We knew 20 minutes was not going to be enough just to state it. And so I appreciate, Roger, I appreciate your research. I appreciate the fact you shared me. I appreciate you guys.
Can I information real quick, Wes? I don't know if it's been mentioned because it hasn't been yet, but the STEM Academy does not have a library, and they use the public library as a means to get information that they need that they can't get at the school. They're the only one. I think the board is working on trying to get them one, I heard.
Space.
Yes, space. But that the STEM Academy students, they don't have a library.
If that were with cheese, I apologize.
I just want to make sure you guys were aware. I didn't know
it
you
was
were.
never, because we had conversations after that said, hey, even if we didn't appreciate what we do tonight, the feedback we received was very, very good. As a talk to commissioners, it would take a long time, but you just can't, you don't close the library. You transition if you want a different system. So I don't know we even looked at that because of the conversation that night. So I appreciate it. I don't know that we can do any more tonight other than maybe come visit. And like I said, to me tonight, to your question about what's tomorrow, I said it's not related to the funding. It's related to those 2 or 3 items change because
I just wanted to make
if
sure.
they don't get approved, the previously funding agreement continues on.
I was just concerned that Mr. Loper's not here, and I didn't know what we were gonna vote on tomorrow, and if he could abstain by saying he wasn't here, he give you a vote.
Well,
It's going to be a time.
I don't think we're out to get live. We might have a great conversation with you. Yes, we had a great conversation with Erica. I thought I couldn't go right away. I'd love to go. I'd love to get invited to them. And I tell you, I probably use those words and I apologize. My thought was not to defund any library or anything. My thought was to pause. And that was, I used the wrong wording. But I got gentlemen like Commissioner Deloach that keeps me in check. You know, I wear my heart on my sleeve, and sometimes he has to say, hey, man, let's slow down a little bit and keep me in line. And so does Wesley, so does these other guys here. I need that, and that's why we have a board of 5 people and not 1. Because I'm human and I screw it up sometimes. I'm still concerned about this stuff. I'm still concerned about our kids because there's some real data here. I'm concerned about people like her growing up. And how do we bridge the gap? And how do we reach out and let people know they're okay and that we actually care? If it goes deeper than just a book, we're missing the boat somewhere along with the kids, that they're not getting the attention.
This may be a conversation that Roger we could have. If you attend the library meeting, express our thoughts and how we can improve it. To me, I think this has been helpful. I hope the public who's tonight can see this is. Okay.
We've got a couple folks from the educator world for Board of Education. You want to give 1 or 2 of them a chance to make a comment?
Sure. We found
Sabrina or Diane? Now it has to be on. It's moving all right on hand. From.
Well, I'm not here. I am an educator, but I'm here with a personal view. So I mean, I don't mind sharing it personally, but I want to speak as an educator.
however you want to speak.
But I do want to say, there was in the meeting that I watched in the last commissioners meeting, there was a discussion and it was equated as if the public library was the same as the school library. And I don't think those are the same things. I do think that we need to be more restricted in school libraries because parents don't have the right to control what their kids are checking out, which I feel differently about the public library. So that's where it came out a little like, oh, no, no, no. But I do think those are two different things. And while I do appreciate you guys said that you check with educators, that those are two different sets of rules. And that's my personal opinion. And maybe
But I think there's some people though that did come with speeches ready to give tonight, and I think we gave y'all an hour. They might need the same hour.
Well, I don't know why we need speeches if we're on a common page of the value of the library.
I think they have concerns of a resource they use daily, and they're passionate about
I don't think there's a concern that it's gonna not be that resource that's there.
It's the quality of that resource that we're asking about. It's the fact that we put books up here to demonize a specific group of people. That's the question. Books are a way that we find empathy. Books are a way that we see life through another person's eyes, and life that we don't understand necessarily as white men. And if we demonize all these books and we put them into a small corner and we hide them away, what does it say about the people these books represent? What does it say about that opportunity we lose? And I think that's a fear that we're all hearing. And I've heard you say it about 3 times tonight that all of us commissioners are on board. And I see 3 men cringe when you say it. Because I think,
Hang on, but Russ, in all respect, when we.
by interrupting me, you're not showing me respect.
But you said that, I'm saying they're all on board. There was a point when we heard the same thing, we all been on board with concern. I didn't say we're on board about anything else. But it did not say we're on board with defunding. We never said that as a board. We had some concerns. We wanted to have this meeting, if that's what I'm saying.
I feel this is less about the public library and the personal mission against a specific community. And I think that's unfortunate. I came here tonight to talk about a book that was read at the last one. And I read the whole book and enjoyed it and thought it was neat because it was originally portrayed to be pornography, which I was disappointed to find it wasn't. What it boils down to is I fear this is less about the library and the old fear monger of what about the children and more about marginalizing a community that is represented in Effingham County, whether we want to acknowledge it or not.
And I can add to that, I cannot tell you the amount of phone calls or emails that I fielded in Rankin of concerned parents about, I got them past the no, they're not gonna defund the library, and then it got to, okay, well, what about my child that might be in this community? What about, the African-American child who needs to find books? Yes, they can find those books, but it's not necessary that you kind of box them into that corner. And I don't think it was done on purpose, but we still need to address it as to, if you're gonna start here, then what's next now? Are you gonna start talking about something else that you don't like in the library? The library is a resource that people use for all different types of things, and that's what a lot of their concerns were.
Russ, you want to say anything else to say?
Patrick was knocking it out.
I would say one other thing. There's a lot of discussion up there about Judeo-Christian values and things. And as a priest in one of the churches in the community, Judeo-Christian values mean a lot of things to different people as well. I pastor a church that is fully open and embraces the LGBTQ community. And so when we say Judeo-Christian values, as a follower of Jesus, we can embrace other people. And it's not always Christians or the church versus others. We can find common ground to be together, especially in this community.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I'm not sure that any of the board members are talking about. Friend Roger would agree with that.
No, I know, but it just, when we talk about, there's a lot up there, and again, I recognize lots of differences of opinions. But that's what they are, differences of opinions and beliefs, not that.
But there are lines to be drawn. And the board has drawn some lines. The board has drawn some lines on what a child can obtain without their parents. So we all recognize there are lines to be drawn. And there's nothing wrong with this commission looking at those lines, understanding those lines. I think they want us to do that before we invest and build another library. They want to know that we have looked at that. So that's to me.
But I think it falls to us library professionals who have done this for their entire careers. I mean, unfortunately, I'm not a library scientist. I don't believe you're a child psychologist. I mean, we hire these people, we pay good professionals to dictate where these lines are drawn. And we should be using the money for that, not trying to dictate how they do their jobs from a standpoint of someone who's not a professional library scientist.
I agree, but I don't think we can get to dictate, we can get to understand. That's how we started. That's we could have dictated a long time ago on false information, sounds like, but we came looking for more information. We knew that 20 wasn't enough. So Russ, I think we came looking for more information. Roger stated all that he's concerned about. These guys have looked, they've shared, they're thinking that's what we do in a democratic society. We share, we get information, we make decisions based on the community coming together collectively and sharing their thoughts and concerns.
And moving forward, I would hope the commissioners we wouldn't have to get to this point. We didn't have to have the meeting what we had. They were given, show up with your financial statement. I got a call, I gotta be at a meeting. They want our financial statements. You know what went through my mind? It wasn't this. And then it was later on that we were told, oh, it's about this woke reading list. Y'all can do a better job.
I agree with that.
Much better. A lot of money, sorry.
We're not paying a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, he's referencing to me, so let me respond. What part of my job didn't I do? No.
With your financial.
I didn't say that.
What'd you say?
I never said that.
That was the phone call I received.
What did you say?
From who?
I received a phone call from clerk of court asking me.
Oh, okay. That would be another position.
Okay, I'm sorry, sir.
Okay, good. As long as it's a genuine apology, I appreciate it.
I'm gonna call this.
I will say that Tim's been trying to get us from attempting to not get us to this point. I'll defend it. I apologize.
He really has been very supportive of the library.
Yeah.
And
I do want to say that too.
and he's one of the reasons we said, oh, we need a longer discussion. But let me apologize to you from the chairman's side. Probably falls on my shoulders. I should have been one that said, hey, let's just go out and visit the library and get to and do that first. But please don't, I'm not trying to back down this policy. I apologize. I didn't know that correct as a chairman. But we have so many things happening in this fast growing community. My head spins. And I tell you, the commissioners don't get paid those five. It's probably about $5 an hour at the time these guys put into what they do. So, but I do, we should have done it differently. Trying to do it differently tonight by getting the board together and have a discussion. And I think it was a good discussion. I hope it wasn't considered a useless time. And there was a better way, so I apologize that I didn't have that.
And I would just like to point out that the library board is volunteer. Absolutely. And the amount, and I as the chair, because things did not happen in the way of the bylaws and such, has really disrupted my life and my family's life. And I am a volunteer at the end of the day. So what does that tell you about how much I love the library? I have been on the phone over 20 hours since Thanksgiving. My Thanksgiving was just about ruined because of the amount of people after someone shared my phone number started to reach out to me. So I just want to remind everybody in the community that we are volunteers. And we wouldn't be here if we didn't love the community and love the children. And our board is made up of 3 educators. I'm a homeschool mom, and we have a former library board member at another library system. So I just wanted to point that out, like, we're volunteers.
Well, we can do better. Let's open a new chapter. We'll communicate better, connect better. I know the library's been asking for a new library. We've been looking at that. We're talking to Tim about where the location of that library might be so that it could, minister to more people and have opportunities to be a part of that. So I still think this is what we are about, the community coming together when we have differences, have concerns, and we share and get good information. Russ and I'll pick on each other later. But,
Not rubbing my leg under the table.
yeah, you know, to me, this is what a good community does. I can tell you when I came chairman, there was a time when the cities and counties weren't even talking, and then we meet, we plan and strategize together. We need to do a better job at our library. We need to plan with you guys as well. But with that, I'm gonna go ahead and close this workshop. Thank you so much. Volunteering the work. Don't go away.